the very end, he does Great Balls of Fire. And it's closing the show, and then a whole lot of shaking. So anyway, I'm standing close to him, and when he did Great Balls of Fire, and he did a whole lot of shaking, he got into it, and he got to standing up, playing the piano, and I standing there where I was. All of a sudden, he kicked the stool back and hit me right between the knees.
This is Live at the Hall from the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum. This week, a performance and career-spanning interview with Jerry Lee Lewis's longtime fiddler and lead guitarist, Kenny Lovelace.
Buck Owens had Don Rich. Johnny Cash had Luther Perkins. Willie Nelson had Paul English. Waylon Jennings had Richie Albright. Jerry Lee Lewis has Kenny Lovelace. Yeah. Kenny Lovelace has been Jerry Lee Lewis's lead guitarist, fiddler, bandleader, and general right-hand man for 55 years. I hired him on the spot, Jerry Lee said in his 2014 biography. The two men would become close friends bound by mutual respect and by a love of music. Quote, "He's like a brother to me," Lewis added. "We shared so many things. He's as good on guitar as I've ever heard. He gets deep into the music." In the book, co-author Rick Bragg queried Lewis, who of all the greats would he choose to play with if he had his wish? Elvis? Hank Williams? Anyone? Lewis pointed at Lovelace. Kenny's name will always be associated with Jerry Lee. That's what happens when you're a member of someone's band that long. However, there is more to Kenny's story, a story worth documenting. With Kenny's permission, we are filming this program so that it can be preserved in the museum's archive. This program was originally slated before the pandemic. We've been working on this one a long time, but the timing has worked out beautifully. Kenny is feeling good. We had our negative COVID test about an hour ago, and we are still reeling from the news that the killer has been elected to the Country Music Hall of Fame. Yeah. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to master fiddler, guitarist, and bandleader, one of the most unassuming and humble people you will ever meet, Kenny Lovelace.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming out.
Yeah, we do. We really appreciate all of you being here. And, just to kind of get us in the mood, I thought we would start with this really great film clip. This is from 1969 in Toronto. Kenny playing with Jerry Lee at the Toronto Rock and Roll Revival. Let's watch this clip, and then we'll talk a little bit about it.
You know, Kenny here, he's the only fiddle player in the world that can play rock and roll fiddle. That's why I hired him, because he's the greatest rock and roll fiddle player in the world. And he can get it, and then turn around and get it again. Hey, bringing my baby back where she ought to belong. Play your rock and roll fiddle, boy.
Well, Kenny, just let's talk about this film clip for a minute. It's not every day you see Jerry Lee Lewis playing electric guitar. So,
Very seldom.
yeah,
Very seldom.
What do you remember about that day and that festival?
Well, it was a great crowd there. I think it was about 25, 30,000 people there, so anyway, we had John Lennon and Joe Loco came in. They was on the show, and Chuck Berry, and so I just unbelievable. You know, I couldn't say we're here with John Lennon, you know, and all them down here. I said it was wild. So anyway, one thing I'd like to mention, not on this festival, but we played L.A. at the Roxy Theater, and John Lennon and Yoko was there, and they was up in the high seat up there, and Jerry was playing. We was doing our show, and John Lennon was leaning over the banisters and "Go, Jerry, go, Jerry!" He was playing a whole lot of shaking. He said that was the most best record, rock and roll record he'd ever heard. And so anyway, when he after the show, he went backstage to meet Jerry, you know. And so I couldn't believe it. He said he got down and he said, "Jerry, you're the best, man. That whole lot of shaking just can't be beat." He got down and kissed Jerry's feet. I was sitting there watching him. I said, "John Lennon kissed Jerry Lee's feet?" He did. That's the Roxy Theater in L.A. But the festival was great too. I mean, you know, it was fantastic.
Yeah. So the guitar that Jerry Lee picked up your guitar to play, and that's a 56.
56 Strat.
Strat, and that's the one you played for decades,
Long time,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Long time.
Tell us a little bit about that guitar. How did you?
Well, the way I got it, we was working the Belvedere Club in Birmingham, Alabama, with our group, the Five Jets, which we talk about, you know, and so we were there. We was playing there back in 56. So anyway, this guy came in, and we let him do a song every once in a while. You know, he'd sit in with us. He'd do this Roy Orbison song, Ooby Dooby. But anyway, he came in, the next time he came in with that guitar in a case. And I looked at it, and he showed me his guitar, and I said, "Man, I like that guitar." And I had a 49 Plymouth at the time, black. And I said, "I'd like to, I'll trade you this Plymouth for that guitar." And he said, "No, I don't know about that." I said, "But I'd love to have it, man. That 56 sure feels good, you know." So we worked out a deal with it. I got the guitar, and he got the Plymouth, and he gave me $100 to boot.
That's great. That's great.
That's the way I got it.
Do you still have it?
No, I sold it. I wished I hadn't have. About 25 years ago.
Yeah, and I see now that's a James Burton.
Got a James Burton
model
model
that you have
back
over
here.
that-
James may be with us.
Yeah.
Is he with us?
Not yet, I don't
Not
think.
yet?
Yeah, it might be here.
He may show up.
later. But of course, you can see the stage setup. So after the interview, Kenny and his band's are going to perform a few songs for us. So can't wait for that. Kenny, you were born in 1936, so that means
Right.
you're going to be 86 years old next month.
August 18th.
Yeah. And you were born in Cloverdale, Alabama, which is a small community near Muscle Shoals.
Just about 12 miles north of Florence. That area out there, used to be Florence, Sheffield, and Tuscumbia, and then Muscle Shoals, but now they usually call it the Muscle Shoals area, you know. So that's where I grew up, on a farm out there, picking cotton, hoeing cotton, hay, baling hay, and everything else.
Wow. Tell us a little bit more about your family. So your parents were farmers. Did you have siblings?
Yeah, my mom and dad, she's the one that taught me how to play a little bit. She played the mandolin a little bit, you know, and she showed me how to make a few chords on this. You got these potato bug mandolins, they call them back in those days. They had that round back on them. I was about 4 or 5 years old. She's trying to teach me a chord on it, and I'd have to sit up in the bed and cross my legs to hold on to it, you know. So she helped me make a G and a C, you know. So that's the way I started.
Wow. On mandolin, and then
Mandolin. Then I went to, after I got the mandolin, a few chords on that, I wanted to do the guitar a little bit, you know. And so I played on the guitar a little bit, making a few chords here and there. And then I wanted to go with the fiddle.
yeah. And all this is when you're very small.
Very small, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So I knew one time I we finally got the fiddle. My daddy, he bought me a fiddle for $5, and didn't have 2 strings on it. And I learned to play violin cabbage down on it on 2 strings because I couldn't. But anyway, and later on, He said, I got you 2 more strings. I said, man, thank you, Dad.
You know, speaking of the Muscle Shoals area, Country Music Hall of Fame member Sam Phillips is from that area, and from what I understand, you're related to Sam somehow. Can you tell us?
Absolutely, yeah. Sam's, my granddaddy and Sam's mother were brothers and sisters. And so that makes me and Sam's first cousins, second cousins. Me and Sam, my daddy was first cousins. And so anyway, I think we got Jerry with us today, I believe. Jerry Phillips.
Sam's son, Jerry
Jerry,
Phillips,
stand
is
up.
with us today. There's Jerry.
Jerry Phillips,
yeah.
ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. And we appreciate you being here, Jerry. He drove all the way here from Mississippi to be here today, so thank you very much. That means a lot. And,
My cuz.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah, and we'll talk, of course, we'll talk about Sam Phillips a little more later, but of course, he was the founder of Sun Records, so we'll talk about that. So you've got Sam Phillips in the family. Of course, he's musical. How about your immediate family? Did you were your parents or your siblings? Did any of them play music?
Yeah, my mom, she played piano and mandolin a little bit. She's the one that started teaching me out. And my sister, Cornelia, she was a good musician. She played piano, and she taught me a lot. And but sadly, she passed away about 34 years old. Was too very young. But anyway, and my brother played a little rhythm guitar, and Betty Jean sang a little bit. She wasn't really sing a whole lot, but so they taught me a lot, you know.
During this time in your youth, like in the 1940s, early 50s, what kind of music were you listening to?
We listened to Grand Ole Opry. I mean, we back in the country there, we had an old battery radio. RCA, I think, and he had put a battery in it, and I mean, I loved the Grand Ole Opry, you know. So every Saturday night we'd all gather around that old radio and listen to the Grand Ole Opry, and sometimes the battery start getting a little weak, you know, and we'd get closer and closer and closer, and until it just kind of went out on us. And I said, Daddy, we got to get another battery.
Did you have any particular favorite artist that you heard on the Opry?
Oh, Hank Williams, for sure, and so many. I mean, golly, Carl Smith, Will Pierce, Farron Young, Marty Robbins. There's a bunch of them.
Yeah. So here you are as a child learning guitar and fiddle. Did you have any particular musical heroes? Like, did you have a particular fiddler that you were listening to at that time?
I used to like Jerry Rivers, played with Hank Williams. Something about his fiddle playing just kind of I liked, you know. He'd do some double notes things, but the way he does his fills and stuff, you know, I just liked the way he played, and he influenced me a lot.
So when did you start, making your first public appearances?
I guess the first time I was working with a group called Eddie McDougal and the Southern Playboys.
Okay.
And I was about 12 years old, I guess. And we'd play, we had a little radio show at WOWL in Florence. Okay. And we had a radio show. He started a radio show every Saturday from about 12 to 1. And so we'd play on that every week, and then we'd play some talent shows and stuff like that. But I started playing at an early age like that, you know.
Yeah. We have a newspaper clip of when you won a fiddle contest. Let's see.
Oh, yeah.
You were age 14. So in addition to playing with Eddie McDougal, you were also out there doing square dances.
Yeah, I played square dance.
Contests.
Matter of fact, when he did square dances, I was playing back then with Buddy Killen and Kelso Hurston.
Oh wow! Yeah.
And we played together and grew up together. And down there in Florence, they have some of these electrical shows, and me and Kelso and Buddy'd play for those, you know. So had a great time. And then the square dance, we'd start playing. I'd start playing the fiddle, doing a hoedown, you know. And they'd dance for a long time, you know. In a little while, I'd say, Kelso, take a break. I'm tired. Take a break on the guitar. My arm's getting weak.
Well, we've got proof here that you won at least one fiddle contest. Were you winning a lot of others? Were they paying cash for this kind of thing?
Well, as one incident we played up in Collinwood, Tennessee, and I was about 12 years old, I guess. And so there's a bunch of fiddlers there, and and my daddy never could play anything, never done anything, but he loved music, and he'd always see that I got where I need to go. So anyway, we played that, went to that fiddlers contest that night, and so I won first prize, and it was $30, but they didn't pay you in money; they paid you in groceries. And Daddy said, "We're going to eat good next week, son."
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that's great.
Good times.
One thing I knew about you when you were young is that you did get to meet your hero, Hank Williams. How did that? Tell us the whole circumstances of how that happened.
We was playing with Eddie McDougal and the Southern Playboys, and I was about 13, I think, or 14, maybe at that time, about the same time I did that fiddle contest there. Anyway, we was playing a little hall there in Sheffield, and Hank Williams and the Drifting Cowboys was booked in there, and Eddie McDougal and the Southern Players, we fronted the show for him. And so anyway, we kept playing, and it was running late, and so we took a little break, and I said, well, we're going to have to go back out and do a few more songs. They hadn't got in. So finally we did about 2 or 3 more songs and took a break. They said somebody notioned that he was here. So the bus pulled up, and that old bus they had back then, Hank Williams and the Drifting Cowboys on the side of it. So they came in, and I got to meet Hank. He was down in the dressing room at that time, and I went down, and we did a few more songs before he went on. So I went down to meet him before he went on. I said, really nice to meet you, Mr. Williams. And he said, nice to meet you, son. I said, I heard you fiddling up there, so you just keep it up. So I was fortunate to meet Hank Williams.
Wow. And was Jerry Rivers with him that night?
Jerry Rivers was with him, yeah.
So you got
I got to meet Jerry, yeah, absolutely.
Did you guys get to talk much? Or?
Yeah, pretty good bit. I told him how much I loved what he did,
Yeah. Wow.
Good fiddle player.
Yeah. And another photo that you were kind enough to loan us is we have a picture of you at Sun Records in Memphis from about 1954, 1955, if we could put that photo up. Can you tell us a little bit about what's happening here? Why are you at Sun Records? What session is this?
Well, that was back in 1955. I was playing with some with Dexter Johnson. He was Jimmy Johnson was Dexter was the uncle of Jimmy. But anyway, he had a little bitty studio at his house there, and so we'd play together, and we did some, him and Roy Cuppers playing guitar, and he'd do some little 30-minute radio spots, and we'd do that. And so anyway, then we met he had this girl, Maggie Sue Wimberly, was her name at the time. Sue Richards is her name now, I think. And so in 1955, she had this song entitled How Long Will It Take You? And so I got called in, and we wanted to go up to Memphis to do this record. And so we went in the Sun Studios and did it in 1955.
Wow. And so you mentioned, and there's a picture there of Dexter Johnson, and that's Jimmy Johnson's uncle. And Jimmy Johnson, of course, is famous guitar player for the Swampers.
Swampers down
in
Muscle
Shoals. So that's his uncle back there, and he helped you get your first. This is your first recording session that you.
Pretty much to record, yeah.
Yeah. Did you know Sam when you were young, or did you get to just know him?
Yeah, I knew him earlier. We with the Five Jets, we went in there and played a little audition thing for Sam, and he really liked us. And at the time he was busy with Carl Perkins Blue Suede Shoes. I think he just hitting big, but he told us we had a good group.
Yeah. But was he like around he was about what, 13, 14 years older than you. So
yeah.
Was he around like the family gatherings with you?
No, not too much. He was so busy in Memphis, and I was down there playing little stuff, in Florence,
Yeah. of course, Sun being in Memphis, there was another label there called Meteor Records.
Meteor Records.
Which was Lester Bahari, part
Lester
of the
Bahari, yeah.
Bahari brothers. And you ended up being sort of identified with a lot of the acts on that. You know, this was a great label that had like Charlie Feathers and Elmore James.
Right.
But you ended up like recording for some of their other artists. I've got Bud Deckelman and Red Taylor, and then the person I want to talk about is Junior Thompson.
Junior Thompson.
Can you tell us a little bit about who he is and how you ended up playing with him?
Well, Junior was a Florence guy there, and he had this thing going. Actually, really, right before I kind of got with the boys, they called the Go-Go Boys there for a while. They had the little thing going. Bobby and Jimmy and Raymond and Don, and then they called me in later a little bit, but that's the way they first. Then I played when they called me in. Junior was still there, but he was kind of a little rocker, you know. He had that song called "Mama's Little Baby" and "Raw Deal," you know, and he did it for a good while, but he kind of just I kind of got disinterested in it, you know. So he pulled out, but he was doing pretty good for a while.
So what happened after he pulled out? Like, what happened with the band?
Well, I was with the guy Steady then, you know. It was the Go-Go Boys, and that's when we went on to playing stuff in Florence. And then they finally got our aunt got us she worked in Birmingham as a professional musician, organ and piano player. So she got us a shot at the Belvedere Club in North Birmingham out there. And we started going down on the weekends and playing like Friday and Saturday night, and we'd go down and spend the night and play those 2 nights and come back to Florence.
Oh, wow, okay. Yeah.
So that's where I got my guitar at.
Yeah, okay, yeah, of course, yeah, and that's the Go-Go Boys. So, you know, there's been so much written about the Muscle Shoals music scene that we know from like the 60s and 70s with Fame and,
Right.
you know, of course, Arthur Alexander and the Staple Singers and the Rolling Stones and all those.
Yeah.
Aretha Franklin, you know, recording there. But a lot of people don't know that earlier history from more like in what was happening in the 50s. What was like Muscle Shoals like then? And do you feel like the Go-Go Boys helped kind of?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, one thing I've got to correct. When I was talking about the Go-Go Boys, Bobby Cox, it was Bobby Cox, the drummer at that time, and Jimmy on the bass, Raymond on the guitar, Don lead singer, then myself. They brought myself in. But anyway, back to I'm sorry I missed that a while ago, Michael. But anyway, it was Muscle Shoals at that time. We was just started playing and got away from Muscle Shoals for a while, see. So there's a lot of things happened over at Fame Studios happened while we was gone. You know, Rick had Recall had the stuff going there, and so. But we kept up with it. Jimmy Johnson, a bunch of the guys, the Swampers. But we got on the road after that, and then.
Right, but what was Muscle Shoals like in the 50s? Not enough is known about that. I mean, everyone like the histories I read of Muscle Shoals, it really picks up with like in the 60s with Arthur Alexander and Aretha and all that. But in the 50s, I mean, have you ever predicted that Muscle Shoals, the small town in southeast, I mean, you know, that it was going to become like a recording
Never
mecca?
thought it would be like that. But you know what? Talking about Dexter Johnson. He's actually the star. He had the first studio in his house that started that Muscle Shoals area. Yeah. So and from then on, it just kind of grew and grew and grew, you know. Yeah.
So you were talking about the Go-Go Boys. So what happens with the Go-Go? You guys you're playing shows in Birmingham, and then is this the band that becomes the Five Jets that you've mentioned a couple times?
Probably about 1958, we changed our name to the Five Jets. And Ross Russell, an agent out of Atlanta, started booking us a little bit. The Southern Circuit, we'd work like supper clubs, like the Azalea Grill in Mobile, and then a big one in Biloxi, and Fort Lauderdale, and places like that. You know, he'd book us in there, and we was going to work. We worked together for about 9 years.
Right.
The Jets.
And we have this great photo of you in Mobile at the Azalea Club.
Yeah.
And we should point out that 2 of the Five Jets are with us today. Do you want to introduce them?
That's right. Yeah, we got over to my left or somewhere. Where are you guys at? They're over there. Yeah. We got 2 over there. We got Jimmy Lovelace on the right there, my first cousin. Played the bass. Stand up, Jimmy. And we got Bobby Cox on the drums there. He lives in Chattanooga now, but he's around the Florence area. And over to my left, we got my grandson with me tonight, and he's carrying on the tradition too. So my grandson is Nick Lovelace. Stand up, Nick.
Describe you talked a little bit about the kinds of venues you were playing. What kind of music were you playing? Like what can you remember any of the songs you were playing back then in the 50s?
Oh yeah, it was probably playing. We played like the Platters songs and Elvis, Jerry Lee, and Chuck Berry. We was playing all the stuff was out at that time. The Coasters, and those groups were really hot, then. So we was playing all their music.
Was it like when you were playing like, I guess I'm trying to think of like the transition, like you're a kid, you're in love with Hank Williams and more hard country music, and then it just kind of like as rock and roll was ushered in the mid '50s, were you just kind of like taking the old country songs and hot rodding them and revving up? Did rock and roll feel like something new to you at the time? Did you embrace it right away?
Yeah, it was completely different. Than country, but like like Jerry, Great Balls of Fire came out. We'd do that, and people was digging it. And Elvis, you can't be found. So the stuff, it was just happening, So we had to play. We play it what the people wanted then,
Yeah. You loved it right away, rock and roll, like right when it hit.
Oh yeah, I liked it. I liked it. What was going on? Yeah.
Yeah.
And the same way with country. I mean, I love country music.
Yeah. The Five Jets recorded for the Jewel label in 1964. The session was produced by Dal Hawkins of Suzy Q fame, and let's hear a little bit of. We're going to hear an excerpt from both sides of the record. Let's hear a little bit of each.
Got a letter from a baby. Says she's coming home today. Got a letter from my baby. Says she's coming home today. Well, my baby wasn't lying. She was coming home to stay. Sugary, sugary, you know what you do to me. Oh yeah, sugary, sugary, you know what you do to me. Oh yeah, sugary, sugary, you know what you do to me.
Well, he gets high, don't he?
Just to do the shake. Everybody's gonna do the crazy shake. Do the dance. Yeah, do the dance.
Wow.
Kenny, do you remember how the record came about?
Yeah, there's a guy that owned a record shop in Shreveport, Stan Lewis. He got a hold of it, and he got it on the label, the Jewel label, and he's the one that kind of put it out. And it played on a lot of radio stations. Never did get big, but we got a good bit of promotion off of it.
Yeah, like a regional hit
Yeah.
in the area. Did you remember how Dal Hawkins entered the equation?
Yeah, he came in, and we met him one time. Dale was a friend, and James knew Dale too. I think James played on a lot of his records. And so anyway, he got to with us one day. He said, "Boys, I think I'd like to produce that thing for you." We kind of played the tunes for him, So anyway, he said, so we went over to Tyler, Texas, over there in the studio, and put it down.
And Sugary, did you learn that song from Marty Robbins?
Yeah.
Is that where you got it?
Sure did.
Yeah. And then I noticed you were a co-writer on the flip
Shake,
side.
on the Shake, me and Ed Goodwin.
Yeah. So were you writing much during?
Back at that time, not very much. but a little bit. Later on, I wrote a few things.
Yeah.
In the later years.
Yeah. About how many songs do you think you've written?
I probably wrote about 10, really, that I liked,
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. All right. So the big question of the day, when did Jerry Lee Lewis first hear Kenny Lovelace? How did Jerry Lee hear you? How did all that come about?
Boy, that's a good story.
Tell us.
We had worked in Bossier City, the Five Jets, for about 4 years. We stayed at the Show Bar. And that's when I was talking about Jimmy Johnson and Swampers come up there and see us. And, and they was playing one little thing down the road. They'd come in and see us, and we'd go down and see them. But we started before the Swampers ever got together, see. But anyway, we were there about 4 years at the Show Bar in Bossier City, and then we left there. This guy wanted to hire us in Monroe, Louisiana, Johnny Johnson at the Rendezvous Club. So we went there, and everything was going great and doing really good, and been there about a year, and then this lady came in, and she talked to Johnny about wonders he could sing on the weekend, get a little job singing on the weekend. And it was Jerry's sister, Linda Gale. So anyway, she came in, and we rehearsed with her, and got her show down. And she'd sing first on the show, and then we'd do our gig, But anyway, in turn, it was after a couple of months there, she was with us, Of course, she was talking with Jerry. She was in Faraday, and Jerry was traveling a lot. And so anyway, she told Jerry about this group she was working with. And this one night, Jerry was booked in the same city that we were playing in, that we were in. And so he was working the East Side Club, one of them real rockers. So anyway, she got him to come out and catch our show. He had a late show, like 11:30, so it's like a late club. So anyway, they got Jerry to come out, and they had his road manager, Cecil Harrelson, and his bodyguard, security guy, Dick West. And so here we was on this Saturday night, I believe it was, and we was all sitting there, and all of a sudden, come in, here sits Jerry Lee and Cecil and Dick sitting on the front row. I said, boy, wow, we're going to have to get with it. But anyway, Linda told him about the group, and she went on first, like she always did her show, and she did a great job. And then when she went off, we did our show, and started out, and we did different things. We did some comedy, and Jimmy is one of them. Sometimes he's a comedian. And so anyway, we'd started out, and we'd do some of the Platter songs and something like that, and then we'd do a fast song, and then me and my other cousin Raymond, who has passed away, played band. We played banjos together, and he paint a green thing around those banjos, and we'd do a thing on the banjos and turn out a black light, and it was doing different things. So we were playing when the world's waiting for a sunrise, and we was doing that banjo act, and Jerry said. He was grinning, so I thought maybe he was enjoying it, So anyway, he said, yeah, man. But anyway, then we did some other songs. Then I got the fiddle out, and I played a fiddle number. And he got to laughing on that pretty good. He was grinning. I said, then later on, he said, now if he gets on the piano, we're going to have a talk. I said, don't worry, I can't follow you. I can't play keyboard. You're too hard to follow. So it was nice of him to say that, though, So that was the Rendezvous. That's where I met Jerry, and went on with him after that, about a few months after that, May of 67.
So after he saw you that night, how did he, I think in his book, if I remember right, he said, I hired Kenny on the spot. Is that true?
Well, what he wanted to do, after he seen our show, he wanted to hire the whole band. He really wanted to hire the whole Five Jets. And then at that time, we'd been on the road for a good while, and everybody had children, families, And then at that time, I was kind of free myself to go. But he said, well, Kenny, if all the boys can't make it, said, I sure love to have you. You know, I said, well, let me talk to the boys and see what they say. I don't want to break up the group, you know. So I talked with them, and they said, yeah, Kenny, it's a good thing for you. You go ahead, because we may not be on the road too much longer ourselves. And through that, my nephew, Marty Morrison, took my place with the Jets later. But anyway, the Jets, they told me to go ahead and make that decision, and so I did. And so I wanted to check with them first, though, you know, because I didn't want to break up the group at that time, you know. But they didn't stay together about another 2 years, I think, something like that. And so anyway, it was first time I went to Jerry at 67.
Do you remember your first show with them? What do you remember about that night?
Yeah, it was Wichita Falls, Texas. Yeah, I was really nervous that time, you know, and I always stand right to the right of, being on the stage, I'm right to the right of Jerry, just right almost close to him, you know. So he did his show, and I was wanting to do my best, you know, to do what I should do. And he, at the very end, I'd seen it, but I wasn't thinking about that at the time. At the very end, he does Great Balls of Fire, and it's closing the show, and then a whole lot of shaking. So anyway, I'm standing close to him, and when he did Great Balls of Fire, and he did a whole lot of shaking, he got into it, and he got to standing up, playing the piano, and I standing there where I was. All of a sudden, he kicked the stool back and hit me right between the knees. And I said, wow, man, that hurt. and I'll never make that mistake again. And you see me now, if you see the videos or whatever, if you see him start doing a whole lot of shaking, or Great Balls of Fire, either one, you'll see me start standing back. And the stool will come back and miss me, thank goodness. Oh, man, we had some times.
In the intro, I got quoted from Jerry Lee's autobiography, and he talked about how he loves you like a brother. How would you describe your relationship with Jerry Lee? Is it purely just a work-employee relationship, or is it go?
It's just really, I do love Jerry like a brother. We just kind of hit off together, and we love the same kind of music. A matter of fact, we'd be on the road out in Europe or wherever we was at, and Jerry it took him a long time to go to sleep when he do a show, you know. Sometimes we'd go on to bed maybe 11 o'clock or something, you know, the band. But anyway, about 12:30, I'd get a phone call. It was Jerry. He said, hey, Kenny, didn't wake you up, did I? I'd always say, oh, no, and I was asleep. I said, no. And he said, you feel like coming up and playing a little bit? I said, well, yeah. I said, bring your fiddle up. So I'd go up there and I'd play with Jerry for about 2 hours. And we played all the songs. That's where I did some of my fiddle stuff. He wanted to hear my fiddle on the songs he was singing. And that's where I guess created some of the stuff that I did, you know. So it was, and this happened often too. I mean, I didn't get much sleep.
And would he pick up like an acoustic guitar and strum along?
No, you haven't put a piano in the room.
In the room?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I remember one time in England there, they're trying to, he's upstairs, and he told me he had to have a big piano, and he's trying to get this big grand piano up the stairs, and they couldn't make it. They got him a small keyboard.
Yeah. And you were telling me, like, kind of similar to those hotel room scenarios, you were talking about like on long drives where he would just want to like sit there and make music with you during those long drives.
Yeah. No, but back in the early days when we was working those supper clubs, not supper clubs, but honky tonks in Texas, you know. Worked Texas a whole lot. And anyway, we'd work out there probably 25 days out of the month. And Jerry had a 65 Lincoln black limousine, 65 model. And so he'd sit in the right rear back to his had a lot of room, rear back seat. And Cecil would usually sit on the left side, and me and Dick would sit in front. So we all three of us, me and Cecil and Dick, took time about driving. So when we'd go do a show, you know, we'd work all these shows for about 20 or 25 days. And the last show we'd do, I'd already pulled my time driving, before that, so I knew what he was going to do. So anyway, we'd do our last show, and he'd get an acoustic guitar, and I'd get my fiddle, and we'd sit in the back of that limousine, and we'd be 500 miles away, and we'd play all the way into Memphis till daylight come, and we'd play every song that I ever knew. You did Al Jolson to Hank Williams to anything, Carl Smith, anybody. We'd play it all the way into Memphis, and we'd just kind of fall out the door when we got to Memphis.
I love that such passion for music.
Yeah. I mean, he just loved to play all the time, But I mean, I enjoyed it, and that's where me and Jerry just loved the same things in music, and we kind of felt like just playing together. And he wanted me to come there and play with him, like at night, like that, and I did, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I have a lot of more questions to ask you about Jerry Lee, but I thought it might be nice just to take a little break. We've here at the museum, working with with Michael Manning and Shep Alligood, we put together a medley of you and Jerry Lee just performing together over the decades, just a few songs. And let's watch that, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Jerry Lee.
All the years I've known Jerry Lee and worked a few road shows with him, I always see one fella. And I understand he's been with Jerry Lee for 15 years playing guitar and fiddle.
Right.
Kenneth Lovelace. Where'd you find Kenneth Lovelace?
Kenneth come from Alabama originally, but I met him in Monroe, Louisiana about 15 years ago playing fiddle and guitar. And there's a man that plays an instrument the way I play the piano. And I begged him to join my organization, and thank God he did.
Lovelace fiddling his way through Texas.
Well, Kenny, to say the least, your personality seems so much different than Jerry Lee's, in that you're so mild-mannered, and Jerry Lee not so much, at least in his younger days. Can you talk a little bit about that chemistry and why it worked for you two?
I don't know. It just me and Jerry just I guess we're different in a lot of ways, But I mean, I just like everybody, and of course, all the fans. It's been so nice to us, and friends, and Jerry, he's kind of not outgoing like I am, So but he's a but he's a going guy, I tell you that. But he can play the piano and sing like crazy.
Have you guys ever had any major disagreements or?
No, not ever, not too much. We had a little thing here and there, you know. We'd argue, say, hey, you want to do this? No. You know, we'd argue a little bit, but our relationship has been so good, you know, that together that I guess we're meant to be together.
What do you think the key to the longevity has been? Like what? You know, there's not many musicians that have been together for 55 years.
I know, man. I can't believe it's been that long, man. I mean, I thought it was 39 and holding. Oh, man. I'd like to be anyway.
Jerry Lee said, you know, he said he's as good on guitar as I've ever heard. What do you think it is about your playing, your style that's a good fit for his music?
I think we just I felt Jerry's music. I think we felt each other's music. I mean, I just knew what I felt like I should do if I'm playing a lead break or if I'm playing a fill with him, you know. Sometimes I play fills on the guitar kind of like I do the fiddle in a way, you know, but different but similar.
Yeah. I think at least in one interview, he has said that he likes that that you don't stray from the melody much. That
right.
a lot of guitar players do, and you don't.
Yeah, he told me, he said, you're the only one I've ever seen that just can play the melody, the complete melody. And I play the melody. I love the melody, you know. And you can play around it, but sometimes you need to play it, you know.
When and I'm thinking like when you guys first got together in the 60s, was he giving you much direction or instruction on how to play?
No, he said, play your fiddle, Mr. Lovelace.
Yeah.
You know, he liked what I was doing, and we just kind of clicked. We just clicked with each other, you know.
Right. Jerry Lee's also known for not using a set list. He knows hundreds of songs and no shows alike. I mean, have you ever I guess it keeps you on your toes. Have you ever been caught off guard or?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the drummer and the bass player and everybody, look, we'd be playing, you know, never know what song he's going to play next. He'll just hit a chord and he'll say, ba, 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 or it's late and she's waiting or doing something like that, you know. I did one of his songs, but we knew the songs, just didn't know when he was going to do them.
Yeah. Did he ever do a song you didn't know?
Oh, let's see. No, I think I hung in with him pretty good.
He's so modest. Listen to him.
Oh, man.
Yeah. When you're, you know, as the band leader or the person who's been with them for so long, when you've got like new members in the band, or if you're, you know, do you have any pointers, or do you talk to those musicians to kind of prepare them for what's about to ensue?
Especially when, you know, a new musician would come on, you know, we would, I'd say, you know, you need to really hang in there, you know, because I said, you know, he's liable to throw you a curve. And he can throw you a curve. You have to watch him like a hawk. So he will turn you around a little bit.
And so, from what you were really Jerry Lee's first fiddler. I mean, he really didn't have like a lot of fiddle on his recordings or in his band until you joined in '67. Is that right?
67, yeah.
Yeah, and then I was jotting down some of, you know, you played fiddle on Another Place, Another Time, What's Made Milwaukee Famous, She Still Comes Around to Love What's Left of Me, She Even Woke Me Up to Say Goodbye, 39 and Holding. Are there any particular Jerry Lee recordings that you're proud of that you played on?
All of them. No, really. I mean, I think I don't know if there's a special one. She Even Woke Me Up to Say Goodbye was a good record. Mickey Newberry wrote. But I mean, all the songs, I felt Jerry's music, you know, and I just felt like I knew what I was going to play when he started out on the song, you know. Sometimes I'd play for a long while there, I had another guitar player, and I'd pick up the fiddle and do my fills on the fiddle, but sometime I got to where I think he's going to do what he's going to do. I'd get the fiddle, and he'd start out another song. I'd have to reach down, put the fiddle back up, and get my guitar. So I was switching instruments all the time. But that's really it keeps you on your toes.
There's one song I wanted to call attention to that we're about to hear, but before we hear it, it's Jerry Lee's rocked up version of the Chestnut, Sweet Georgia Brown, which recorded since its inception in 1925, has been recorded by everybody from Bing Crosby to the Beatles, but it remains one of Jerry Lee's favorite records. In his book, he said it's one of the best things we ever done. And in this case, he gives much of the credit to Kenny. Jerry Lee says, he did that fiddle break on that thing. It's something else, isn't it? I mean, you can never capture that again like that. Oh man, what a record. It's so far above, so far ahead of anybody's thinking in the music business that they could never comprehend the meaning of it. It had the flavor of everything. And then Jerry Lee says, he's like, if you don't like it, he likes to tell the audience, you need to get yourself checked because you might already be dead. Let's hear a little bit of Sweet Georgia Brown.
She can't get fella, she ain't mad. Georgia claimed her, Georgia named her, Sweet Georgia Brown, yeah. Play a fiddle, son. Oh, can a Lovelace there? Yeah, no gal ain't ever got a shade on. Sweet Georgia Brown, a two-left feet, but also neat as Sweet Georgia Brown. Hey, outside on a proud, but sweet little Georgia Brown. Let me tell you why. Here it ain't all lie, not much. Well, it's bitch that she's knocking the bed with the chin on the landing in the town. Well, the help about it over here to find a Jimmy how the Georgia down to cool 'em down. Tell her she can't get her. Tell her she ain't mad. Georgia claimed her, Georgia named her. Sweet Georgia Brown, let's mix it, son. Getting hot now, getting hot.
All right. That just oozes energy, doesn't
I'll
it?
tell you, that's a good old song, I'll tell you.
That was recorded in 1970 here in Nashville at the Monument Studio for Mercury. Produced by Jerry Kennedy, and Jerry plays a great guitar solo on that song, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about being on the road so long with Jerry. I mean, you've been such a road warrior, toured the world. Are there any, memorable shows or special moments that come to mind when you think of all those years on the road with Jerry Lee?
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. We used to play these, a lot of festivals over there, and we played the Legends of Rock and Roll, we played with Jerry, Little Richard, and Chuck Berry, all three together at one time. It's pretty hot. But anyway, I know there's one situation over there, a big festival. There must have been 50,000 people there. Chuck was out on the stage playing his stuff, he was rocking them out there. Somehow or another, Jerry had worked it out with the drummer to let him get behind the drums and so not say anything about it. And Chuck started into this song, and he got to going real hot, and he kind of turned around, he looked, Jerry, what are you doing back there? And Jerry was trying to hang in, he was hanging in with the drums. Stuff like that went on,
And mentioning those kinds of festivals with with Chuck, and I mean, you've probably gotten to meet just about all your musical heroes, haven't you?
Yeah, sure did. Yeah, I met, of course, Ringo. I met Ringo, and
We've got a picture of you and Ringo. Yeah, check
really?
that out. Yeah. Yeah.
he's a good guy, man. He's funny.
And you were telling me about a nice moment you had with Fats Domino backstage once.
Oh yeah, we were in Italy, Rome, Italy, and we had that festival. It was Fats, Little Richard, and Jerry. And so anyway, they had these dressing rooms back there, and down the hall, they had Fats had one, had Little Richard and Jerry had one. And well, I just kind of strolling up the hall there a little bit, and Fats was sitting in. And so I seen him sitting in there, and he seen me walk by and said, "Hey, come in here a minute, Kenny." And he said, "Let me ask you something. What do you think I ought to play out there?" I said, "You're asking me?" I said, "Walking to New Orleans." No, I said, "You know what to play." I mean, we just went into a little bit. I thought it was so funny, though, him asking, me, "What do you think I should play out there, Kenny?"
Yeah. Well, Kenny, we're an hour into this. I want to make sure I leave enough time so that you and the band can play. But just to kind of wind down, I wanted to ask you a few more questions. Of course, you've done other recordings other than Jerry Lee, and I wanted to talk about a couple of those. You played fiddle on Ozark Mountain Jubilee, which was a top 5 hit for the Oak Ridge Boys.
Right.
How did that come about? How did you end up on that record?
Well, my friend Ron Chancey was a producer, and he got a hold of me and asked me if I'd come in and play fiddle on that. Matter of fact, Ron's with us today. Ron, stand up, would you? Ron Chancey. And his son, Blake. and that Ron brought me in a studio over here in Woodland, I think, off of Woodland Avenue, and had me do the intro of the Ozark Mountain Jubilee. So I appreciate that, Ron.
And you've also have collaborated a lot with Marty Stewart. I know he's had you on his TV show and on concert stages and on recordings like Rough Around the Edges.
Yeah, I played fiddle on that, on his CD on that, and did the 3 of his TV shows on RFD when he had those 30-minute TV shows. Great guy.
Yeah. My colleague Michael McCall also told me this week that you were on some of those early Jason and the Scorchers records. I dug that up. You're on Ocean of Doubt, Blanket of Sorrow, Far Behind, and Michael McCauley pointed out, Kenny's a quiet guy who plays with wild men. I like that. It's a good description.
Good group.
All right. Well,
Good group.
yeah. You want to get the band out and play some
We
songs
can talk a
for
little
us?
bit the Memphis Beats.
Yeah. You want to talk about the Memphis
Yeah,
Beats?
yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to say we got the bass. Those two are the guys right now, since we're not working. They work in gigs and other places, But the bass player made it over this time to come over to see the show. He's going to do the last one, but he had to work, so we canceled. So he got to come to this one. So his name's Ray Gann. Plays bass with Jerry Lee.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah.
Go, Ray, stand up. And I'd like to say that we miss Robert Hall. He was busy this weekend and couldn't come, but he sends his condolences to me and everybody. And he was a guy that was with Jerry 20+ years on drums. So anyway, we had a good Memphis Beat group. And B.B. Cunningham passed away. He was an early bass player. And then Buck Hutchison played guitar, and he passed away about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. So we lost a lot of guys, But anyway, we had a lot of time on the road with the Memphis Beats. We've been all over the world together.
Thank you for acknowledging them.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So for today, you've got you introduced Nick. You've got Nick with
Yeah.
you. You've got Jimmy Lovelace, your cousin, who was in the Five Jets, and Bobby Cox.
Right.
Are all going to join you today for a few songs. Let's hear some
Okay,
live music.
we had a little time to rehearse, so anyway, we'll get through it.
All right.
We're going to feature my grandson here, Nick Lovelace. He's going to do a little Jerry Lee tune. I think I know this one.
He'd sleep and she's waiting, and I know I should go home. Every time I start to leave, they play another song. Someone buys another round, and whatever drinks are free. What's made Milwaukee famous has made a fool out of me. The babies beg me not to go too many times before. She says love and happiness can't live behind no swinging door. Now she's gone, and I'm to blame. Too late, I finally see what's made Milwaukee famous has made a fool out of me. Babies beg me not to go too many times before. She says love and happiness can't live behind no swinging door. Now she's gone, and I'm to blame. Too late, I finally see what's made Milwaukee famous. Made a fool out of me. What's made Milwaukee famous has made a fool out of me.
Nick Lovelace. Good job, Nick.
Thank you.
All right. This is a tune that it's an old tune. I'm sure you know it. You Are My Sunshine, but we do a little different version of it when we're out on the road. So, You Are My Sunshine. We hope you like it. The other night, dear, as I lay sleeping, oh, I dreamed I held you in my arms. When I woke up this morning, say I was mistaken. Don't you know that I hung my head and I cried? Oh, you are my sunshine, oh, my only sunshine. Say you make me happy, baby, when the skies are gray. Say you'll never know, dear, how much I love you, baby. Please don't take my sunshine away. You always told me you'd always love me, and you wouldn't let anyone else ever come between. But you left me here to wed another. Oh yeah, now you shattered all of my dreams. Oh, you are my sunshine, oh, my only sunshine. Say you make me happy, baby, when the skies are gray. Well, you'll never know, dear, just how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. don't take my sunshine away.
Kenny Lovelace, baby.
Thank you. Oh, a little different version of You Are My Sunshine there. I'd like to do a tune that I wrote with a co-writer, a real good friend, a few years ago, and Julie Richmond. And so I'd like to sing it for her. And also, I'd like to say thanks to Mr. Rolf Bresser from Heiden, Germany, that recorded this song on me. He did a CD on me, and I recorded this song there. And Heiden, Germany, Rolf did. And so I'm going to sing it for you. While watching TV, I felt it was you and me dancing to Stardust. Old movies and melodies, eating crackers and cheese is for us. Casablanca was the show, you and I were alone. And darling, I even brought the wine. You're the music of my life, I'm so glad you're my wife. Let's dance to Stardust. We're living in a modern age, popcorn in a microwave. Still we got Stardust. Here's looking at you, and you're the only one I do, 'cause I love you so much. When our two lips meet, that's when I feel complete. To a lady I'd like to say, you treat me just right. Let's turn down the lights and let's dance to Stardust. We're living in a modern age, popcorn in a microwave, but still we got Stardust. Here's looking at you, and you're the only one I do, 'cause I love you so much. When our two lips meet, that's when I feel complete. To a lady I'd like to say, you treat me just right. Let's turn down those lights, baby, and let's dance to Stardust. Yes, you treat me just right. Let's turn down the lights and dance to Stardust. Thank you. Thank you very kindly. Thanks. I wrote that song a few years ago, and I did a CD on it, but it didn't do a whole. It sold some records, but not a whole lot. But I liked the song, so I wanted to sing it for you. Well, this is one thing I haven't had the chance to too much anymore since 2019. Jerry Lee, had a stroke, and our last show was in Greenville, South Carolina, and he had a packed house. Did a great show, and then after that he had a stroke, and then I had right after that in 2019 I had a left knee replacement, and I'm a bionic man, I think. But anyway, I had a left knee replacement, and then in March of 2019, and then August of 19 I had lung cancer, and they make a long story short, it was in my left lung. And they took the upper left lobe out and got everything around it and did a checkup on it, and that's 2019. I've had some good reports ever since, so I'm thankful. I'm going to do a little hold down. I don't get to do too many hold downs, and I hadn't played fiddle in a pretty good while, so my arthritis is kicking up a little bit on my left thumb, so it's kind of difficult, but I'm going to try to do a little hold down for you anyway. But who wants to square dance, they can. Thank you so much.
Mr. Kenny Lovelace, everyone.
Thank you very, very kindly.